liquids for air travel can be so confusing. So today we're breaking it all down, and we're not just talking about carry-on only today. We'll also be covering checked baggage and even duty-free purchases. Let's go. The most common questions I get in the comments are all regarding liquids. How to pack them, what the rules are, what can go in your carry-on bag, what can go in your checked bag, and such. So today I thought we could do a deep dive into everything liquids, at least where air travel is concerned anyway. And it's kind of appropriate because we've got thunderstorms happening outside. So if you hear some storming, that's what's going on. Let's start with your checked bags, because I don't think checked luggage gets talked about nearly enough over here in the travel YouTube space. And I know I still check bags on a fairly regular basis, and I know that many of you do too. There isn't really a limit on the size of containers that you can pack in your checked bags, like a normal size, container of sunscreen or conditioner or shampoo, which would most likely be the prominent things that you're going to be packing in your checked bag to take with you. There's no real limit on size, but you definitely want to do your research when you are traveling to or from another country to find out what is acceptable or not. What our TSA rules are not international rules, so they don't apply necessarily everywhere else in the world. So do your research. Don't just rely on what I might say here or what the TSA says is allowed or not, because some countries do have stricter rules than we do here in the USA. Now, the TSA does have some items that we would consider liquid items that are not allowed. And you definitely want to check and see what those things are before you pack them in your suitcase. Especially, you might be surprised at some of these things. A lot of them are like aerosol sprays, and generally if the aerosol spray is used for medicinal or toiletry purposes like bug spray or hairspray, it is okay. But don't even think about bringing air freshener or cooking spray, because they are not allowed. And while we're talking about bug spray, you can bring the insect repellent that you spray on your skin, but you cannot bring bug spray that you're actually spraying at the bugs themselves. That is not allowed. And the same goes for bear spray. Maybe they consider bears to be just bigger insects. I'm just kidding. I know that bear spray is highly, it's a bad thing. So don't pack the bear spray in your luggage. And honestly, that is something that has, come up for me and my friends, is that bear spray is something that you want to take with you to Alaska. Well, honestly, you have to wait and buy it when you get to Alaska, because you cannot pack that stuff in your suitcase. You can't bring it through on carry-on, and you cannot have it in your checked baggage. So bear spray is something you're just going to have to wait and buy when you get there. Honestly, I never really hiked with bear spray because I was always afraid if I had to use the bear spray when I was hiking in Alaska that I would accidentally spray myself, and I didn't want to get that close to a bear. I would play my music and I had a whistle with me, so I was just talking to myself when I was hiking in Alaska a lot instead of carrying bear spray. It seems obvious that chemicals that are considered hazardous materials are not allowed in your checked bags, like chlorine and drain cleaner, although I don't know why you'd be bringing that. But your hair dye might also fall into this category too. So check that out before you pack it. Also, any extra strong liquor is not allowed. So meaning anything over 140 proof, like Uncle Johnny's grain alcohol, or perhaps that 151 rum you want to bring back from the islands. And lastly, you'll have to leave that betta fish you bought for Cousin Susie at home too, because no live fish or live coral is allowed in your checked bags. There is a much longer list of items that aren't allowed too. So the best place to go if you have a question about whether you can pack something is directly to the TSA. And I would recommend going to their Facebook page or even their app for the quickest response. And I'll have both of those listed below. Now let's talk about how you can pack your items in your suitcase so they are safe and secure, and they hopefully won't spill out all over your suitcase during your air travel. The first thing you're going to want to do is double bag your liquids. And I used to do this all the time before we ended up getting limited on the amount of liquids we could bring with us. I would double bag everything liquid that I would bring. I feel like back then we also didn't have bottles that secured and were, could handle the pressure changes as much. But these days I'd still do the same if you are packing in your checked bag, because your checked bags underneath the belly of the airplane are going to go through a very different pressure change when they are, going up to 30,000 feet and back down. So they're going to expand and contract much more than the liquids that you have in the cabin with you. So double bag, take a couple of Ziploc bags, put your items in the first Ziploc bag, zip that up, and then zip another bag up around that, especially if they are full bottles and there's no space inside the bottle for those liquids to expand, because the full bottles tend to be the ones that you're going to have the most problem with. Now, if you are packing something that is in a breakable container that contains liquid, like say a bigger bottle of perfume, or maybe even a bottle of wine, which I'm actually going to talk about wine in just a few minutes, I would not only put that in a double bag of Ziploc bags, but I would also wrap it in either some bubble wrap or wrap a towel around it and maybe some more clothes. And you're going to want to pack that in the center of your suitcase, like put some, maybe some clothes underneath it, put it in the center, and then pack more clothes around it. You're going to want to protect that as much as possible. It's what I do. My shells aren't liquid, but when I bring my shells back, I try to wrap them up as secure as I can and then put them in the center of my suitcase where they are, surrounded by the things and going to be protected. And you want it in a place where it's not going to move around a lot too. So, get it nice and secure and wrapped up with as much padding as you possibly can, because we all know that those baggage handlers aren't the most gentle with our bags when they are getting them in and out of the airplane and up on those carousels for us to get. Now, like I said before, let's talk about wine. Say you go to Portugal or France or Spain and you want to bring back a bottle or two or three of wine. You are going to want to have that very well wrapped and secured in your suitcase before you check that bag, because there's nothing worse than paying, $60 to $100 for a very special bottle of wine that you're going to want to enjoy later, to get home and then have your entire suitcase be covered in red wine. That would be such a bummer. And I have not had that happen, but I am curious, has anyone else out there tried to bring home either wine or liquor and ended up with it all over your suitcase when you got home? Oh, that is just... I'm sorry if that has happened to you. Again, like I said, with the perfume, you're going to want to, if you can get a hold of some bubble wrap, you're going to want to bubble wrap it as best you can. You're going to want to wrap it in some towels and clothes. Dirty laundry works really, really great for this. And you're going to want it as secured in the center of your suitcase as much as possible. Now, there are some places that restrict how many bottles of wine you can have in your checked bag when you're coming back. But my checked bag, I don't think I could put more than 3 or 4 bottles of wine in there along with all of my clothes. So, but you, again, do the research and make sure that you aren't bringing back what they might consider as a marketable amount of wine, meaning that you really should be paying a tax on it, because they might catch you when you are going through customs. But if you're just bringing back, I think, anywhere from a bottle to 6 bottles of wine, you should be fine. And if you can carry more than 6 bottles of wine in your checked luggage, I want to hear from you, because that's a feat. But you also, if you have that much liquid in your checked bags, you need to be prepared that there's a good possibility that your bag is going to be searched. So make sure you have enough padding so that hopefully when they are pulling through your stuff and looking to see what the liquids are that you have in there, that they can put it back and it won't get broken. But just know that that is something that might be a little bit of a red flag. I'm hoping that they should be able to see on the scanner if it's the shape of a wine bottle and know that you are carrying wine, because that would be just heartbreaking to have your wine broken and not be able to drink it when you get home. I mean, that is definitely alcohol abuse. Now, if you decide to buy something at the duty-free store, like wine or liquor or perfume, something that's liquid, the TSA does have a few rules that you have to follow for your duty-free items so that you can get them through security, even though they are liquids bigger than 100 milliliters. The first rule is that these items need to be purchased internationally when you're traveling to the United States with a connecting flight. An example here would be, say you're coming home from Mexico and your first flight is to Houston, but you have to get on another flight from Houston to, like, say, North Carolina for me. While you're hanging out in the Mexican airport, you decide while you're going through the duty-free store, you're going to treat yourself to a really nice bottle of tequila because you're looking forward to making margaritas for your girlfriends when you get home. When you arrive in the Houston airport, you're going to have to go through passport control and then customs. You're going to have to get your bags off of the carousel and recheck your bags. I mean, it's a whole thing. It takes forever. And then once all that's done, you're going to have to go back through airport security in order to get to your connecting flight. And you're wondering, how is this going to go through security? And that is where rule number 2 comes into play. And that is that the liquid has to be packed in a transparent, secure, tamper-evident bag by the retailer and show no signs of tampering when you go through TSA screening. So no taking tequila shots when you are waiting for your baggage at the carousel in Houston, because it does take forever. I don't know why. And lastly, you need to have handy the original receipt for your liquids. Your tequila and the receipt has to show that the purchase was made within the last 48 hours. Honestly, I have never purchased anything at a duty-free store, and I don't like tequila, so that would not be me. But I'm sure if you decide there is something that you just can't live without, or you totally forgot your mom's birthday and need to get her some nice perfume, the nice people working at the duty-free store will help you out with remembering all of the rules. Now, let's talk about the dreaded Carryon Liquids rules. I have done quite a few videos about packing your toiletry bag and how you can pack it efficiently, tips and tricks and hacks that I use to get what I need liquid-wise when I am packing carry-on only. And also, I've done some videos on substitutions that you can think about doing if you want to lessen your liquids that you are taking and things that you can use instead. I will have all of those linked below in the description box and also in that first pinned comment below. There's a lot of nuggets in there that I am probably not going to get to in this video, so it would probably be a great idea to check those out after this. Now, the second point I want to make about liquids is that there are countries that are pretty lax about their liquids rules. I mean, they have the liquids rules, but they're not really being super strict about checking your liquids bags and such. And then there are other countries that are super strict about their liquids rules and what bags you can use. Again, here you're going to want to do your research when you are traveling internationally about what different countries are going to expect you to be doing with your liquids. I will tell you that when I was traveling in both Japan and South Korea last year, nobody said boo about a liquids bag. They didn't want you to take it out. There was like a board in the Japan airport that talked about, what liquids weren't allowed. They actually didn't have anything about a specific liquids bag. And same thing in South Korea. They never even mentioned it. I think I had to take out my computer, but I don't think I had to do anything else, and we didn't have to take off our shoes when we were going through security in either Japan or Korea. So just know that if you're traveling to those two countries, it's pretty easy going through airport security. Now in Europe, from my understanding, because I haven't traveled there yet this year, it is much more strict. We traveled through Paris in 2015, and I honestly can't recall how strict they were about the liquids at that time. I don't remember having any issues with our liquids bags at that time, but we also weren't traveling carry-on only. We all had checked bags, and I don't think that we brought a whole bunch of liquids with us because we knew we were going to buy stuff while we were there. I do know from what I have heard from other people, and especially you in the community that have made comments below, that Paris airport and London airport and a few others in Europe are very, very strict about the size bag that you can have your liquids in. I typically travel with this bag as my liquids bag, and I don't even fill this up with liquids, and this is just for show today. But typically I don't have very many liquids, and I just use it for the rest of my toiletries, like my hairbrush and my makeup and stuff that's not liquid, and I just put it all in one bag with my liquids. Where this is a regular quart size bag full of liquids, and this is what those countries will want you to have it in, if not a slightly even smaller bag than this. So what I suggest to people that are traveling to other countries where they are more strict on bags for your liquids is to take a bag like this with just your liquids in it and stick it inside this bag, and then you can use it for other things. You know, you can put stuff around this, but you've got your liquids bag available to pull out. And just know that there is a possibility they're gonna make you take all of your liquids out of this bag and put it into their own bag. Now, there is technology that they are putting into many airports, and gosh, I hope it comes fast fast and furious. It would be so nice to eliminate this whole liquids conundrum when you travel, that they can scan and see what the liquids are, and that we won't have to be doing this whole dance with our liquids in the future. I know that London has been testing it out, from my understanding. I know there's several places in the US that have started putting in these new scanners. So again, hopefully our liquids, you know, protocol is going to go away in the future, and we won't have to be so worried about whether everything is in a 100-milliliter bottle or a quart size bag. So let's talk about the actual rules that the TSA and most airport securities around the world have, and that is the 3-1-1 rule. And what it stands for is 1 quart size bag that you can fill with bottles that are no bigger than either 3.4 ounces or 100 milliliters. So this would be the size bag that all of your liquids that you are bringing with you would need to fit in. And each of those bottles cannot be any bigger than this is right at like 3.4 ounces. So this would be about the largest that you could bring for a bottle of liquids. So even if you have a big bottle like this that only has like a little bit of liquids that's less than 3.4 or 100 milliliters, in that big bottle, you can't bring that big bottle. It has to be a smaller bottle like this. If you have a big bottle, then that's going to need to go into your checked bag like we talked about before. So you just want to make sure that everything is in a smaller container and that it will all fit into your quart size bag. And I think that's pretty well known at this point. And again, like I mentioned before, if you have questions about what is allowed to come in your carry-on bag as it pertains to liquids, or even other items that you're not sure, like, you know, knitting needles or scissors, dull scissors, if you're doing some sewing and some things like that, go to the TSA Facebook page or the TSA app and ask them there, because they do get back to you pretty quickly, and they're the legit ones that you need to ask. I would suggest that if you do ask them a question and they say, yes, it is fine to bring whatever that item is, let's say knitting needles. I would take a screenshot of that answer and save it somewhere on your phone. So if you get pushback from the TSA agent when you are going through security, you can just pull that out and say, look, I asked TSA and they said that I could bring this, because there are thousands and thousands of TSA agents out there working every day, and you know, they all get trained at different times on different things, so they may have different answers than what you get from the head of the TSA. I guess you're not getting it from the head of the TSA, but anyway, TSA corporate gives you that answer. You can at least have something that you can show the agent and be like, look, they told me that I could bring this, and they should be okay with that. If they aren't, I would maybe ask for a manager, or you know, however much pushback you want to do at that time. But the main thing, back to liquids, the main thing is stick with your 311 rules for now, and if you have any questions, ask the TSA. They will be glad to answer any question that you have. As with anything, there are exceptions to the rules, and the exceptions to the 311 rules are anything having to do with medications or infant nourishment. So if you have medications that are liquid that you need to have, or you are, you know, a mother with a young child that needs to have breast milk, or you know, formula or whatever, you are allowed to bring those items in bigger quantities and bigger containers than the 100 milliliters, and they can be outside of the quart size bag. And you are also allowed to bring freezer packs through for those medications or the infant nourishment. So you know, if you have a freezer pack that's not quite frozen all the way solid and it's more slushy, you can have that with those items, with the medication and the breast milk. Unfortunately, if you're, you know, someone else who is bringing snacks that they want to keep cool, your frozen, whatever you have that's frozen to keep those items cool, has to be solidly frozen. There cannot be any slush to it. There can't be any liquid at the top that's come out from where that, you know, if it's a bottle that's melting or freezer pack that's melting, you are not allowed to bring anything that is somewhat melted or slushy with your liquids. You would have to make sure that you've poured off the excess. If you have like a frozen water bottle, you know, go and pour off that excess water before you go through TSA. Otherwise, they're probably going to make you throw that bottle out. My best tips for you for packing liquids are to try to eliminate as much liquids out of your bags as you can. Know that pretty much in this day and age, anywhere you are traveling to, you are probably going to be able to buy shampoo and conditioner, unless you have like very finicky hair and there's a very particular brand of shampoo and conditioner that you need to use. You know, buy your shampoo and conditioner where you're going. You can also buy sunscreen most places that you're going to go. It is probably, if you're going to a super touristy beach, it's probably going to be a little more expensive, but yeah, that's something to weigh the pros and cons of. Just know that most items you're going to be able to buy pretty much anywhere you go, and check and see if your accommodations are going to provide shampoo and conditioner and, you know, liquid soap for you. That was what happened pretty much most of the time. Most of the places I've traveled within the past like 3 or 4 years, almost every place has had, especially if they're Airbnbs, has had shampoo, conditioner, soap, all of that stuff that, you know, we don't have to go out and buy. If you do need to bring certain liquids, decant it to as small a container as you possibly can. One of my big tips here is if you're going, especially for a longer trip, so say you're going for a week or 2 weeks somewhere, and there are certain liquids that you want to bring with you, do a trial run of what you need from those liquids. So put the liquids you're going to be using, go ahead and put them in the containers that you plan on traveling with, and use them for a week and see how much you actually use of those items. And that will give you a good idea of what you actually need to pack with you, because I think honestly that most of us way overpack the liquids that we need to bring with us on a trip. I also like to use contact holders for, liquids that I really don't use a lot of. So some foundation or moisturizer that you only need like a dime size of for each night. Well, if I'm only going to be gone for 5 nights, I don't need that much moisturizer, and pretty much my entire amount of moisturizer can fit in one of those little contact carriers. So just, think outside the box of some ideas that you can use to get the liquids that you need to bring with you down to the smallest amount you can. And of course, there's always the option to switch out your liquids for solid options, like switching from toothpaste to toothpaste tablets, or from deodorant to deodorant wipes, or the solid shampoo instead of your liquid shampoo. Although I have tried a few different solid shampoo options, and they're okay. They're not my favorite, but if I am like really pressed to that I need to bring shampoo with me and I need to pack lightly, I will bring solid shampoo with me. But that's kind of more of a going on a hiking trip kind of thing that I would do. The other tip that is a really good tip is to fit more into your bag. If you see here, I have packed things horizontally in my bag. That is a way to get more bottles into your bag if you really need to make the most of your space in your liquids bag. So those are kind of my best tips that I have for you. And now that you are an expert on flying with liquids, what about those other travel mistakes that you could be making? I know I have made my share, and in this video here, you'll learn what not to do on your next trip. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have wonderful and safe travels.